Wonderful. We'll begin as usual with a question that's come in advance from our family joining us from all over the world. And then we'll open it up if there's anyone here with any questions that anyone might have. I read somewhere that every desire must be fulfilled before we are able to find God. Is that true? So it's true on one level and not true in the way that it gets understood. So the way that the questioner has asked it, that every desire must be fulfilled before I can find God, well, what that makes most of us think is, okay, I want this. First I have to go and get them all, do them all, have them all, achieve them all. And only then I can embark on my spiritual path. Ki jab tak many sare desires poured nahi kiya, adhyatmata ki rasta pe chal nahi sakungi. But that is not true. And in fact, all that's going to do is lead you in a life, and not just one life, but lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, of trying to fulfill all your desires so that finally you can achieve God. As though somehow God is the, bowl of gold. What do they say? The basket of gold, the bucket of gold at the pot of gold. Thank you. Pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. There's the rainbow, end of the rainbow. There's the pot of gold. As though God is somehow that prize that you get, that bonus that you get after getting everything else you want. It's not that. In fact, running after all of our desires takes us further from God because they're all external. I want to eat pizza. I want to have a bigger house. I want to have a Mercedes car. I want to have diamonds. I want to have a sari like this, a vacation here, this item, that item. Or I want to achieve this in my career. I want to reach here in my goals. They're all external things. So the more we run after them, interestingly, the farther we are moving away from God. So on that level, no, that is definitely not true. And yet, the questioner has taken this from a spiritual sight because it is simply a slightly misinterpreted truth. What the truth really is that as long as I've got desires, as long as I'm full of desires, I'm not going to be able to really know God. But that doesn't mean that the answer is to fulfill all my desires, because desires just create more desires. Today I've got a bicycle, or maybe let's begin earlier. Today I'm walking, I desire a bicycle. Then I get a bicycle, I desire a motorcycle. Then I get a motorcycle, I desire a car. Then I get a car, I desire a nicer car. Then I get the nicest car and I desire a private airplane. Right? So desires just create more desires. So the idea that you cannot simultaneously be connecting and knowing God while you're full of desires is absolutely true. But the answer is not go out and try to fulfill them all so that you can finally know God. The answer is to free yourself from the desires, which is not from fulfilling them. Here's why desires and God don't go well together. Because otherwise you'd think, why? I mean, God is infinite. Can't God coexist with desires? Of course. But here's why. If in my mind I'm in a state of desiring, well, it means two things. It means, number one, I've decided that there is something not perfect about the present moment. That there is something wrong here and now. Something is lacking here and now. And as long as I'm wrapped up in lackingness, I can't know God. Because to know God is to know fullness, completeness, wholeness. If I'm living in an experience of lack, I don't have enough, I'm not enough, I'm not doing enough, I'm not getting enough, whether it's money or acclaim or respect or love, whatever it might be, then I'm living in lack. And living in lack is the opposite of living in God. To live in God is to know abundance, to know fullness and wholeness. So as long as I'm holding on to desire, it means that my entire internal psyche is founded, is growing out of a soil of lack, which means I'm pushing away the truth of God. Every time my mind says, I don't have enough, I'm pushing God out. Because to say I don't have enough is to deny the very presence of God. The other reason that desires can't coexist with God is desires are always taking us into the future. I want to have this. When I get to eat pizza, it's going to be so good. Oh, when I finally get that thing I'm wanting. Oh, and we're daydreaming. Meaning I'm not here in the moment. I'm off at some point in the future. But in order to experience joy, peace, divinity, fullness, first I've got to be here. If I'm not here, how can I be in moksha, in enlightenment, in joy? If I'm not even here, I'm in the future somewhere when I finally get what I want. Well, then I'm missing the moment. And everything worthy of having has to exist in the moment. You cannot be happy tomorrow. You can only be happy right now. You cannot be in peace next week. You can only be in peace right here, right now. And so those are the two reasons that we've got to free ourselves of desires in order to experience God. And the way to free yourself is it's not about pushing away desires. Because then again, you're just pushing. No, I'm not desiring. Really, I'm not interested in pizza. Not thinking about pizza, not wanting pizza. Well, my mind is still full of not wanting. But wanting is still there. Now it's just not wanting. I'm not wanting. Oh, those people are wanting to get rich. I am not wanting to get rich. See, those people are all running after name and fame. I am not wanting name and fame. So what's my mind full of still? The same stuff. The only way to really become desireless, and it's a bit of a misnomer. It's not absolute desirelessness. I mean, we desire God. We desire enlightenment. We desire not to have an empty stomach. It's what gets us out of bed in the morning. It's what sends us into the kitchen for breakfast. So the simple desire as an energy pushing you into activity, catalyzing, is always going to be a part of your life. As long as it doesn't make you live in lack of the moment, and as long as it doesn't push you into the future. So the way to do it is to connect yourself spiritually to God. Go after God first. Don't worry about pushing away the pizza and the diamonds and the money. Let it just be there for right now. Just allow those thoughts to be there. It's okay. Don't push them away. But take all of your attention, your focus, your awareness, and put it very consciously, very deliberately onto your spiritual path, onto being connected to God. Through bhakti, through gyan, through karma. Read scriptures, pray, do seva, sing kirtan, meditate. Because what happens is, the more connected to God I am, the more full I start to be, automatically. It's like sitting in arti, chances are, if you're really allowing yourself to be lost in the joy of arti, chances are you're not thinking about diamonds or a new car. Chances are when you're singing Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, you're not thinking, oh, and that car, yeah, that car, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Mercedes. You're not. We've allowed ourselves to just be immersed. The more of that you can do, the more your experience of the moment will be full. And as you experience fullness, you automatically stop desiring. Thank God. Kya fark padta? And suddenly all of that stress about it, it seems silly. It's why we meditate, it's why we pray, it's why we do all of these things. To keep reminding us, oh yeah, fullness. We are poured. We are not lacking. And the more and more we experience that, then desires automatically will dissipate. And the moment that you find yourself having desires, it means do something spiritual. Meditate, pray, serve others, chant kirtan, come back to Rishikesh. And just keep re-immersing yourself in that fullness, in that wholeness. And lastly, the other thing you can do is a little bit of personal introspective Gyan Yoga. Ask yourself honestly, okay, all these things throughout my whole life that I've desired, and I've gotten, am I really any happier today because I got them? Like, am I really much happier today when I wake up in the morning because there's a Mercedes sitting in the driveway? As my eyes open in the morning and it's a brand new day, is it really a better brand new day? Because I've got a Mercedes in the driveway. And what you'll find if you're really honest with yourself is no. And you see this all the time, people who have everything. This is where Pujya Swamiji always says, everything is set, but we are upset. We keep setting everything in our life more and more, but we're still upset. So the fulfillment of desires never brings us what we think it's going to bring us. And so finally it's time, just allow yourself introspectively to have this gyan. Hare, I've done this. I've done this. I know what it looks like to keep chasing things. Let's try something else. Maybe there's a reason that the eyes of the sages and the saints just shine. Maybe they've actually achieved something, experienced something that I don't know. You can always go back to desiring or running after money. But give yourself some time to just see what it would be like if you merged into that which is already full, already whole, the divine in you. Does anyone here have any questions? If you just raise your hand, she'll bring you the... Yes, in the back. She's just going to bring you a microphone so that our family joining us online can hear you through the camera. Yeah.
Hello, ma'am. It's pleased to hear you personally. I have a question that if you can describe a little bit about where is heaven and hell in space.
I'm sorry, if I can share about?
Heaven and hell.
Heaven and hell, okay.
In space, according to modern space, if you can throw some light.
Heaven and hell in modern space.
Yes.
So, this space right here I am in, literally, like this chatai, let's just call it this very physical space, not even the whole chatai, maybe I'm occupying a third of the chatai, this asan, either can be heaven or it can be hell, based on what's going on in my mind at the present moment. My mind literally is turning this space into heaven or hell. And not just for me. Because if you get close enough, if you come and you start to sit near me, maybe you occupy this part of the chatai. If I've turned this area into hell, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel when you come and sit down, because that energy of anger, of hatred, of misery, of jealousy, of resentment. Well, it doesn't live only in my brain. You've asked a question about, modern space and science. There's a very interesting new discovery that a dear, dear, beloved friend of mine and a very respected scientist named Dr. Bruce Lipton shares about, where it used to be that in order to do brain scans, you had to literally, put all the electrodes on somebody's head and then you'd get a reading of their brain waves. Now, you can do brain scans without actually touching someone's skull. You can put the electrodes a few inches away from the head and still get a brain reading. which means something incredibly powerful. It means our thoughts actually emanate into space and are impacting the world around us quite literally enough that the electrodes are giving you a brain graph of what's going on in my brain, even though they're simply sitting in the space around my skull, outside of my head. Now, this is what our sages and our rishis have been telling us for thousands of years. Jaise drishti, vaise shrishti. So, science now has developed tools that are discovering what we've got written in scriptures. So, heaven and hell is based on how I am living, how I'm thinking, what I am creating. Now, first I experience it. It's happening inside me first, and then I'm sharing it. And this is why there's some people who you feel like, certain people you don't want to spend very much time around them. It's what we would say, bad vibrations, right? Good vibrations and bad vibrations. Well, what does that really mean? Well, we now know scientifically it literally means you are emanating energy of love, of positivity, heaven. I am creating heaven here. And if you come into this area, you're going to experience it. Now, even though they haven't yet developed a machine to test it, in terms of my brain, we also know that it emanates even further. Because we know that what we think is literally creating that which is happening in our world. Because it changes. It changes how I speak. I speak based on what I think. I act based on what I think. I live based on what I think. And if I do that, then those are the sorts of karmas, actions, I'm going to be performing. So those are going to be the results I'm getting back in my life. So we are literally creating heaven and hell. It's said beautifully in the scriptures, man eva manushyanam karinam bandha mokshayo. The mind is the key to freedom or bondage, or heaven or hell. Yes, and then you.
Good evening, Sadhviji. I've seen your live session on Instagram as well, and I've been coming here to the satsang as well. But when I see the live session, you are the same. What you're saying is the same. Everything is the same. I'm just seeing it on a screen. And when I do that, the same thing when I'm here, it entirely feels different. The vibrations are different. So why is there something wrong with me? That I'm on the screen, that I'm not able to absorb what you're saying, and when I'm here in front of you, it's entirely different.
It's a beautiful question. There's nothing wrong with you. Screens are very nice as last resorts. COVID happens, we can't meet our loved ones. Thankfully, we have FaceTime or WhatsApp video or Zoom or whatever. But anyone who thinks that it's just as nice to FaceTime with someone as to actually sit with them doesn't have a very deep relationship with that person. Screens are great for getting work done. So one of the benefits of COVID, one of the positive outcomes is a lot fewer people are traveling or commuting for work. It's better for people's health, it's better for our environment, less traffic, less carbon emissions. People have more time because they're not spending 3 hours a day commuting. This work from home is fantastic because it's work. But I mean, could you imagine that you're living in a house with your loved ones, but you decide nobody's ever going to leave their bedroom and we're just going to like FaceTime with each other, right? And we'll each get our meals and we'll go and we'll sit in our respective rooms and we'll FaceTime while each of us in our own rooms. Well, clearly, in, I would imagine, a few hours, but certainly within a few days, you're dying for actual connection. You're dying to actually be in each other's presence. It's what led to so many people during this time of COVID, even people who were not sick, didn't have financial issues, didn't have logistic issues or health issues, but nonetheless are experiencing this almost post-traumatic stress disorder from the last 2 years. Well, a huge part of that was a lack of connection, a lack of the ability to be in each other's presence. So there's a huge difference. It's not you. It's like saying, I'm watching this video of an air conditioner running. Why am I not feeling cool? Right? Or I'm looking at this picture of a beautiful meal. Why is my stomach still grumbling? Well, you've got to actually eat the meal in person. You've got to actually sit in front of the air conditioner in person. Screens are useless for that. And as far as satsang, I love that we have the possibility of the screens, because as you have been one, we have so many people all over the world who join through these beautiful, very simple devices that allow them who are unable to travel to India or unable to be with us in Rishikesh to at least take 30, 40 minutes out of their day and connect in satsang. But it's nothing like being in person. Of course. Nothing wrong with you. It shows that you're turned on, that you can feel things, so you can tell there is actually an energetic difference. Of course there is. Yes. And I'm glad you're here. And the gentleman behind him.
Namaste Shivaya. First of all, I really want to say thanks to you that we got an opportunity to attend a live session. I don't have any question, I just have one request. Can you please share one of your divine experience? Thank you.
Sure, and we'll take this as the last question request. Divine experiences. God, there have been so many, but I'll share one with a moral. How about that? Because sometimes divine experiences are just simply that. They're just divine, and the moral, the teaching is only for you of that experience of oneness with God. And I've had a whole bunch of those. But sometimes divine experiences actually come with a teaching that one can offer to others. So I'll give you one of those. I had always had issues with faith. I wasn't raised in a religious family or even a spiritual family. And faith in God was just never something I had before I came to India. It was never something I realized I didn't have and missed. But when I came here and I had these divine experiences, it connected me to the divine in this extraordinary way that brought about great faith. However, there was still the American academic skeptic in me that would arise periodically, particularly during times of stress, mental stress, physical stress. And one time, Pujya Swamiji and I were in London. And I was jet lagged. We had been traveling a lot. So there's just this element of some physical stress on the body, not getting enough sleep, overtired. And it was winter time, and Indian people I've discovered in the winter, in places where they've got central heating, turn on the heat really high in the winter because people like to wear sari blouses instead of sweaters. And so they crank the heat up really, really high so that even if it's snowing outside, in the house they can be just in a sari blouse. Now, I don't do very well in the heat at all. Cold, no problem. Heat and I don't really get along very well. So I had spent this time in London very, very hot. Houses were hot, cars were hot. And when you use artificial heating, it dries up the air. So I was thirsty all the time. I was hot, I was thirsty, I was tired, I was jet lagged. Okay, so that's the scene. Now, we're driving from the house that we were staying at in a suburb outside of London into London City to meet with some people. And the people we were going to meet with, I won't mention their names, of course, but they are well-known industrialists. Very, very, very well-to-do, very well-known names of old money, names, prestige, image, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful family, beautiful, beautiful people. And we were going there. It's about a 45, 50-minute drive. I'm hot, I'm thirsty. So we arrive, and as you know, the first thing that people do usually in an Indian home is they offer you water. So we sat down, and they didn't offer water, but the help came out and said, "Can I get you some tea or coffee?" Now, Pujya Swamiji had taught me, as renunciants, we're not supposed to ask for things. Jo aata hai wo prasad hai. Aise maan ke chalo ki jo bhi aata hai prasad hai, or don't ask. So I said no to tea and coffee, thinking wo to pani to le aayenge anyway, naturally. They looked at me, young white woman, they're like, "How about a cold drink? Coca-Cola?" I was like, "No, I don't drink those." Thinking, well, to pani anyway they're going to bring. So they didn't. We meet with the family for a while. It was a beautiful meeting. Maybe 45 minutes or so later, the help comes back. "Are you sure? No tea, coffee, cold drink?" And I'm thinking, just give me a glass of water, please. But they didn't. Everything else they offered. So we finally leave and we sit in the car. And I say to the devotees who are driving us, remember, we're now in the middle of London City. And I say, do me a favor, just pull over up ahead at any of the convenience stores. I'm just going to run in and buy a bottle of water. Now, where we were going was also in London City. It was some other devotees who own a very big publication house. And they had just bought a brand new printing press that they wanted Pujya Swamiji to bless before they used. So he says Pujya Swamiji is very committed to saving every penny, every rupee, and using it for good causes. So he really, really, really tries to avoid any possible unnecessary expense of money at all. So he says, don't waste the money on a bottle of water. We're just going to reach in 5 minutes. You'll get water there. So it's London traffic. It's a half an hour. We're stuck in traffic. I say to the guy driving, please just stop. I'm gonna go into this store and get a bottle of water. Pujya Swamiji says, no, abhi pahunch rahe. We're just reaching. So eventually we finally reach. Now the women are at home. It's the men in the office. And the men tend not to be so attuned to things like offer water. It's the business. It's the office. They're very focused on bringing Pujya Swamiji into the printing room so he can bless the new printing press. Now, these same people also run all of these very, very big, fancy dinner parties. Big 5-star events. And they must have been just about to host something, because in their printing press room, floor to ceiling are boxes full of drinks, iced tea, Snapple, all the sort of bottled type of drinks that you would give people, juices, whatnot. And I'm thinking, when no one's looking, I'm just gonna make a hole in one of these boxes and grab a Snapple or something. But I think, no, that's not dignified. Eventually they will offer some water. They don't. We're walking out of their office. Now you have to picture a London street, middle of London City. Here we are opening the doors of their office. There's a sidewalk, and our car is literally just right there. Obviously, they've driven right up to just put Pujya Swamiji right into the car. Just 3 feet of sidewalk in between. As we're about to cross the sidewalk, a British man, not an Indian British man, a white British man, is walking home from doing his grocery shopping. And he's got grocery bags hanging, like the plastic grocery bags hanging from both of his arms. And in his arms, he's carrying one of those flats of 24 bottles of water, cardboard on the bottom and the plastic on the top covering it. So he's got all these grocery bags and he's carrying the water. So we stop to let him pass. His arms are full. He stops to let us pass. We say, no, please. Your arms are full. He says, no. And as we step out, he stops and he says to Pujya Swamiji, random white British guy, he says, can I offer you a bottle of water? Now, wait, it gets better. So Pujya Swamiji, I can just feel, is about to say no thanks. Because again, he doesn't take anything. And he must have just felt energetically. Sometimes you can just feel someone, and he must have just felt me saying, please. So he says to the man, okay, maybe just 1 bottle. And the man says, please let me put this entire flat in your car. He says, you never know when you're going to need some water. So he insists. He puts the whole thing, 24 bottles of water, random guy we'd never met. Just having done his grocery shopping, he was heading home with the water. As we get in the car and drive away, Pujya Swamiji says to me, he says, see, for every time you told God, I'm so thirsty, God sent you a bottle of water. So I love that story because it It was such a powerful experience because there's so many times in our life that we feel like, I've got to take care of this myself. Like no one is there for me. I'm going to go in and buy it. I'm going to break into a cardboard box and steal it. I'm going to do whatever I need to do because no one is listening. But you don't realize that actually God is listening. And listening in such a way that not only do you get a glass of it, but you get all of it. Exactly. Beautiful. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your evenings. A beautiful, beautiful day to our family joining us from all over the world. And so much love to you all. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.